don't understand. Life is so joyful. And he said, Vanessa, here we don't smile. We're serious. I said, I'm serious too. Don't take it by mistake. I am, but what is the problem smiling? And I said, probably we need to investigate the neuroscience of smiling and commitment, because I don't think they exclude one another. But really, imagine at Jesus' time, a man smiling. You know what? Surprisingly enough, he used to hug people, but he wasn't Brazilian. I was surprised. We think we're so proud, like, oh, we're Brazilians, we hug everybody. Really? Jesus was he was the vanguard of that movement, the hugging movement. Because Jesus, he used to hug. And more surprising, when he talks to the father of two of his future disciples, he comes filled with worries. And as Jesus is consoling his heart and explaining, Brother X explains, because he was an elderly man, he felt for him, and he started caressing his head. And his hair comes. And we're like, what? What? At that time. Because if it happens today, imagine President Obama. And we say President Obama because it could be any president of the United States, but the current one. Like doing this, it would be like scandal in the news, right? So we're talking about a whole communication he gave to us. Verbal, non-verbal. And neuroscience nowadays tells us that the therapy in the offices begin with our non-verbal communication. I have been teaching this to my future dentists and the physicians at the University of Maryland. Look, you can have the whole knowledge of your life, give the best prescription treatment plan, but if you don't give a smile, if people don't take you by what you appear, oh yeah, we need to care, the whole thing. And by the way, our posture, our approach, the tone of voice, because he describes the tone of voice of Jesus was adapting to each scenario, and usually he talked with calmness, serenity, but at times, when one of his disciples came to him, upset that he didn't teach them how to heal and expel the obsessors, he said, Master, I'm upset. You didn't teach us. You do it, but we don't. And Jesus changes. He looks at him firmly in the eyes, and very firmly his tone of voice says, what are you asking? Like we do to our children. Oh, you want an iPad at 5? Are you sure? You don't know what you're talking about. That's a lot of information for your little brain. And little brains need to be careful about exposure because they are full of potential. And Jesus, he was adapting his educational lessons, his therapeutic approach, not only in words, not only his actions, but his posture, his gestures, his tone of voice, his facial expression, beginning always with a smile. So next time we think of Jesus and call him to come to our hearts and heal us, if we don't see him with a smile in the face, he's not Jesus. Because the Jesus we get to know is smiling. Trust us, and he's always like that since he was a child. But what is his main goal when he is called to treat us? Does he want us to be the greatest spirited speaker of the world? No. Thank God he doesn't. It doesn't matter. Does he want us to be famous? To be millionaires? Are we like Judas, thinking that the day we conquer Oprah's attention to Spiritism, then Spiritism is going to be known? We need to read that chapter about Judas and Jesus, because that mindset is much like Judas. Nothing to do with Jesus. He was the spiritual governor of the planet. Before he incarnated, he was already taking care of us for billions of years. And when he decided to come, he didn't decide to come as the child of Caesar. He decided to come in the humblest location, with the purest hearts. And he always teamworked with the people that were suffering. That's why he said, I came for those who are suffering. If there are people out there right now who are at the beach and are not here, God bless them, because they think they're good, because one day they will come here. And we better be ready, physically, spiritually, and emotionally. Because if we're not ready, we'll be drained. Because to each person, we need to give our hearts. It's not like, okay, thank you very much, sit down, leave, and please don't. And then we go like, oh my God, I can't stand it. So we don't ask for what we don't know if we're ready for. But Jesus, in his first teaching, and this is chapter 3 of this book, Brother X summarizes the treatment plan of the best doctors of all doctors. In one passage, when for the first time in his 30s, his first exposure in public, in adulthood, he goes to Jerusalem, like New York today, Paris, other cities like of the nature, São Paulo, Rio de Janeiro, could be Rio. And he goes there to the temple of the temples. He doesn't go inside. That's interesting. Brother X said that he stayed outside, seated at the stairs. And here, there were ministers, Hebrew ministers, talking. These, he says, this type of conversation that goes nowhere. And then they observe these men who is very composed, has this elegance, and they are curious about who is that. And they observe he is not from the area because he dresses up like a Galilean. Another lesson, we don't change who we are. We are who we are. He knew those people in Jerusalem, and he didn't pretend to be one of them. He needed to teach them that we need to be who we are, accept ourselves. This is the healing. It comes from that moment. So when he's there, this minister, who is quite arrogant, looks at him and says, Galilean, what are you doing here in the city? And he turns. And the description of Brother X is fantastic because it's quite paradoxical. He says that Jesus turned to the minister with noble modesty. What is noble modesty? God knows, I don't know. We need to study more. Noble modesty, because we think they are so contradicting. But Jesus was the combination, the perfect balance. Being noble, elegant, but modest, simple. And said, I am passing through Jerusalem to search of the kingdom of God. And then he turns to Jesus with arrogance in his heart and says, and asks, what is this kingdom of God? And Jesus replies, the kingdom